good start, because they're not all necessarily names that people will recognise. There are some in there. In Chaniev, he's a recent world title challenger. Gaib Gadzhi, if you follow your WSB, then you'll have heard that name because he did well in that competition, a very good season, amateur. But like all promoters at the minute, the aim really is to provide 50-50 matchups where you're going to see good action, guaranteed action, irrespective of who they are. And me and you talk about this a lot, and that's the kind of thing that we've been looking for a good while before this whole situation materialised.
Yeah, and I think that's the paramount important. I think we all want to see big names and big stars, but big names against journeymen or people who are just not going to be competitive or even try. What's the point? You can't have, in this climate I'm in at the moment, you can't have learning fights. They have to be competitive fights. You can have a favourite, of course, but they have to be competitive fights. And tonight they're not names that jump out at you, but when you delve a little bit deeper, you can see that each match should on paper anyway, will be relatively competitive and should be exciting to watch. And that's with no other distractions around you except for what's going on in the ring, that is hugely important.
Absolutely, and when you look at the shows that we've seen so far in the UK, we've seen BT and Frank Warren have one behind closed doors in the studio, and there was a lot of talk about all the organisation that needed to go into that. I was in Germany last weekend in Magdeburg for an SES card that was on ESPN Plus, and there was a crowd in for that actually. There was 525 people there. They're just a bit further ahead of where we are in the UK. And you can just see things slowly, bit by bit, getting back to normal, but there are all sorts of protocols that need to be observed. If you were still fighting, how keen would you have been to get back out as quick as possible once things started up again? Because there are a handful of fighters who boxed in March and they've really made the effort to get on these early shows, and that's meant that the COVID crisis hasn't really affected them too much. Would you have been busting to get back out there?
I think it depends on what level I was at. When I was champion of the world, then probably not. I would have wanted a crowd. I would have been used to having those big events. Early in my career or at the mid stages, then I think I would have been doing everything possible to get on one of the shows and willing to fight anybody. I think just to get the exposure, because obviously there's more light shone on you now because there's fewer shows, so people are not going by foot. They're only having to watch on whoever's broadcasting or whatever you can see, whether it be via the internet or on conventional television. So it's vitally important to get your name out there. So for these smaller name guys, it's an opportunity to shine and become bigger names.
And I do know that on the shows coming up on the 23rd and the 3rd and the 4th, there are some interesting matches that have been made, some real interesting ones with some fighters that you maybe wouldn't have expected. We'll wait for Al to decide when the right time is to release those details. But of the ones we've got lined up tonight, as I said, that this fight between Chaniev and Vladyslav Melnyk, this is a really interesting fight. Melnyk 11-1, very hungry, young fighter. He definitely looks at Chaniev as being a scalp that he can take. At super middleweight, we've got Sergei Gorokhov up against Levan Shonia. Now, Levan Shonia, that's a name you might recognise. More of that later, but the MC's in the ring, so let's get over to him.
Ну а сейчас время сказать официально. Добрый вечер, уважаемые господа! Good evening, ladies and gentlemen! Мы в прямом эфире Матч ТВ and live and exclusive on Fight TV. Al Siesta и промоутерская компания Siesta Boxing в партнерстве с топ-3 Беларусь представляют первое боксерское шоу серии KOld Wars. Генеральный партнер – букмекерская компания Пари Матч. Партнер шоу – торгово-развлекательный центр Diamond City. Благодарности достигли адресатов, и мы готовы начинать. So, let the battle commence! Вашему вниманию, 10-раундовый поединок во втором среднем весе. Встречайте первым. Уроженец Черноморского порта Poti, Грузия. Welcoming first, boxer coming from Poti, Georgia, Levan Shonia.
Well, the aforementioned Levan Shonia, I did drop his name in just a few minutes ago. He's 35 years old, originally from Georgia, boxing out of Kiev, and he is a tough fighter. If you've ever seen him in action, you will know that. He's been the distance with plenty of good fighters, Predrag Radosevic, Maxim Bursak, Shefkat Asufi. He is best known, though, for attacking his own trainer at the conclusion of a fight against Spas Genov back in late 2018. It's pretty extraordinary footage if you haven't seen it, but he is all business, and he means business when he slips through those ropes. Tonight will be no different.
And now, all the way from Kaliningrad, Russia, Sergei Gorokhov.
Gorokhov, 30 years old, 9 wins, 2 defeats and 2 draws. He had an interesting start to his career after making his debut over 4 rounds. 2 months after that, he took an 8-rounder against the 39-4 Valery Brudov, who you remember Tony Bellew fighting a few years ago, former WBA Cruiserweight title challenger, and took him the distance. And since then, the best one he's picked up really was against a Sauerland fighter, Tim Robin Lehaug, who was 16-3 at the time. He's someone I've seen quite a bit of, and that came in September 2017.
И позвольте представить боксеров. Боксер в синем углу. Ему 35 лет. Рост 180 сантиметров, вес 77 килограммов, 300 граммов. В его активе 15 побед и 18 поражений. Он, рожденный в Грузии, представляет здесь Киев, Украину. In the blue corner of the ring, weighing in 77.3 kilograms, standing 180 centimeters tall, age 35. His professional record, 15 wins and 18 losses. Born in Georgia, he represents Kiev, Ukraine. Levan Shonia! И его оппонент в красном углу ринга. Боксер с янтарного берега Балтийского моря. Ему 30 лет. Его рост 178 сантиметров. Вес 76 килограммов, 850 граммов. 9 побед, 2 поражения и 2 ничьих. Он представляет город Калининград, Россия. Across the ring, fighting out of the Amber Coast of the Baltic Sea, weighing in 76.85 kilograms, standing 178 centimeters tall, age 30, straight out to Kaliningrad, Russia, Sergei Gorokhov!
So just waiting for these two to be called to the centre of the ring. Barry, we do expect a good competitive fight here, because one thing we know about Shonia is he may have these defeats, but we know that he's never been stopped, and we know that he does come to win despite those stats. He always looks in resolute, fierce mood, I think it's fair to say.
But you're not sure who's in more trouble, is the opponent or the guy in his corner. That's the worry. You know, he's a volatile character, so you're not sure. You know, he could put on a fantastic performance, or just his head goes and and he's looking to fight everyone. Well, luckily there is no crowd, so there's only a few people who he can throw punches at. Let's hope it's the guy standing in front of him.
Well, the guy standing in front of him is Sergei Gorokhov. As I outlined, he had that win against Tim Robin, Lee Haug. The two draws have both come this year, so he's boxed in February and March. And one of them, the last one, was against an undefeated fighter, the 9-0-1 Batal Siesta. So for him, in the context of his career, this is a fight that he really must win. Gorokhov in the silver. Both of these two orthodox. Shonia in the blue, black and white. This is super middleweight. Gorokhov started off at light heavyweight, has dropped down over the course of his career. Shonia just looks to try and swarm you to an extent, doesn't he? He doesn't really box his height, boxes out of a little bit of a crouch, but he wants to get in close and attack you to the body if he can.
Yeah, when he comes out, he threw a jab there, but there's very much a lack of a jab. There's an obvious lack of a jab, and he comes in swinging those hooks, and we've just seen that right hand over the top, and he did catch Gorokhov with a left hook to start the round, but he needs a little bit more guile to get in. Even if you feint or roll as you're coming in, he tried a little bit there, a little bit of a dip in the legs, but I understand he wants to get in close. He wants to use that brute strength, that physical strength to make Gorokhov feel the power, but you've got to get from A to B, and sometimes that's behind a solid jab, which at the moment Gorokhov is using quite well. There's not much weight behind his jab, but he's just finding his range with it and taking a little step back.
And every now and again as well, just looking for that left hand to the body. And he's had a good last minute of this round, Gorokhov, because he started fairly quickly, Shonia. And when you're in with this kind of opponent, I wouldn't say that you need to go crazy in the first round and try and put them in their place, but you need to let them know early that you've got the goods here, that you've got something about you, that they can't just walk through you, because that is what he will try and do.
And
Jab
right on cue there.
That
I just worry with single jabs. I just worry with single jabs. When you've got a guy who's swinging wild shots, especially jabbing to the body, you're leaving yourself open for that right hand over the top. You either got a double jab or fire something behind it.
Shonia just throwing out that left hand and then looking to try and lean in, get onto the shoulder if he can.
He can do this if he can keep Shonia on the back foot. Keep his back to the ropes. Then it's hard for him to get any sort of strength in his attacks. Any sort of acceleration of speed. And then he dictates the pace and feels a bit more confident and gets a bit more weight beyond his own shots at the minute. I think he's probably doing enough to win the round, but there's not enough weight behind his shots, and that's a worry that Shonia might feel as the rounds go on, that he can just walk through this guy, take one to give one.
So that's the first round of the books, and that was what Shonia was looking to do towards the end of the round there. Just setting his feet and just winging away with those hooks. And Gorokhov with just a little shake of the head as he goes back to the corner. He's a super middleweight now, as I mentioned previously. He'd been at light heavyweight, and his other defeat came against Konstantin Pitsanov. That was over 10 rounds. But that was back in February 2016. And just a little look here at that opening round. And that illustrates what you're saying there, really, because he did catch a left hand there, Shonia, but it didn't really bother him much.
No, and it was early in the round as well. I think he adjusted to. I think Shonia came out, like a bull out of the gate in the first sort of few seconds of the round. But I think Gorokhov sort of got the grips with it halfway through the round. Sort of faltered a little bit at the end, but I think he just did a little bit more of the better work for me, even though more of the eye-catching stuff was possibly from Shonia. But I don't think enough quality was in his work to warrant the round for me.
So into the second. Touch of gloves there, just glove held out by Gorokhov. Never quite understand it when fighters do that, because the referee calls you together at the start to touch gloves. He calls you together before the start of the final round to touch gloves, and you are not required to do it at any other point. So you're taking a risk when you do that, I always think, because it doesn't have to be reciprocated. Some might look at it as being poor sportsmanship if you're offered a glove and you don't touch it, but you don't have to. It's as simple as that.
well, the richest boxer in history has gained from that, haven't he? When he boxed Ortiz, Floyd Mayweather, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Ortiz headbutted him, put the glove out to say sorry, and Mayweather caught him with the left hook, dropped him, and won the fight.
It caused quite a storm at the time, but as I say, I didn't have any great problem with that because it's not a rule or a regulation. But anyway, back to what we're watching in front of us here, and he's just looking to be a bit busier and try and double up that jab, as you said in the first round, which was something he didn't do, Gorokhov. He's looking to try and just push it out a bit more because he knows that he's got to occupy the attention of Shonia, not really give him the opportunity to put him under too much pressure. He's going to have to work hard here, Gorokhov, all the way through this fight because he doesn't have a particular amount of power from what I've seen of him from the footage I've watched. So a high punch output is going to be key for him here.
Good right hand there, though. Just you said he has no power. I carried a little bit of snap in that right hand there, a little bit of a whipping shot over the low left hand of Shonia. And again, but you're right. You know, he's putting a bit into that punch, but it's not really a correctly thrown shot. It's a bit of a looping right hand, and just lacks a bit of sting maybe. But he's boxing better this round, you said, Andy. He's up the pace, and it's going to be, he's going to have to be very, very fit because he's going to keep this pace to keep Shonia off. It's going to be a hard night's work for him, but you just got to go out and win that next round, and that's all you got to focus on sometimes when you're a fighter, especially when you have lack of power, and I know about that. So you just go out and win that round. Don't worry about the next round. Just don't plan too far ahead.
Just looking to let go with the right hand there, Gorokhov. Didn't manage to get through with it, and Shonia with that kind of square stance at times, almost that peekaboo style, just trying to move his head and get close.
And that's where, like, he doesn't do it, Gorokhov, but a pivot. So he threw that right uppercut there, but if he had a little bit of a pivot, a little bit of a turn on the front foot, that uppercut's got a whole different angle. And then you can just bend your legs, just take a little bit of a squat, and you get plenty of leverage then in that right uppercut. And for the guy who comes forward in straight lines with his head low, the uppercut, of course, is the shot that's going to do most damage. Good double left hook there to the body there from Gorokhov. And Shonia just wasn't as maybe committed to coming forward to the attacks as he was in the first round. Maybe just catching a few too many coming forward, and even though they might not have hurt him, just maybe enough to deter him from just walking through Gorokhov. So I thought that was a better round there for the Russian.
That's a magnificent looking bell at ringside. I wonder where they've got that one from. British Boxing Board of Control left sadly lagging behind there in bell quality, but I'm not sure it's something that'll worry them too much. Into the start of the third round, and Shonia just looking to put a bit of meat on that right hand to the body and trying to pursue Gorokhov in the early stages of round 3. A big swinging overhand right which didn't get through.
You can see already, can't you? Gorokhov is much more comfortable in there. After that second round was a much better round for him. He dictated the pace a little bit more, and as I said just before the start of the second round, if he can keep Shonia with his back to the ropes, keep him from walking forward so effectively, then it makes it an easier night's work for him.
He was just looking for the body there, Shonia, but Gorokhov managed to drop the elbow on it nicely. Shonia saying he's been caught around the back of the head there, and the referee didn't really get involved, but he took a step back there anyway, Gorokhov, and just allowed his opponent out. I just wonder if, of the two, actually, Shonia here is maybe just beginning to feel the pace of this a bit. Let's not forget that nobody has been able to box for the last few months, and training, of course, has been difficult, particularly until recently, but there was just a spell there where he just had a little lean on the ropes and covered up and didn't seem too interested in moving. Just nicking a quick rest, possibly.
Well, it's not the fit that you can get fit, of course, on your own, but it's conditioning for the sport. And yeah, without the sparring and being in a gym environment, it's hard to get the feel for a fight sometimes. It might take you a few rounds to get used to it, or you might, as you've already alluded to, feel the pace a little bit quicker than you would normally. But I also think he's void of ideas here, Shonia. He's a sort of a one-trick pony, isn't he? It's effective at times, but once you figured it out, which is not too hard to do, and you have the fitness to keep him at bay, you can have, and what Gorokhov is at the moment, a comfortable night. And I think he's having a comfortable round here, as he did in the second round. Getting clipped every now and again, but for me, as long as his fitness is good and he keeps his shape. So a little bit of a complaint there, but was that right hand behind the head? It looked like a decent shot to me.
Yeah, that's what he was complaining about. And again, it was a slightly odd little passage there, because he looked at the referee, expecting the referee to get involved, and almost stopped boxing. The referee didn't get involved, and then Shonia stepped onto him. Protect yourself at all times. It's something that people say often, but it's very, very true. It's something you just cannot, as we described earlier with that Mayweather-Ortiz situation, you cannot afford not to have that uppermost in your mind. But he's shaking that off now anyway, Gorokhov, and that was a nice uppercut on the inside there.
I thought that was a lovely round for him, really did, and he finished it strong, and I think that's quite important. And we'd seen him finish with a beautiful right uppercut, but he landed with a couple just before that as well. I think he's just starting to find his range. See, they're heavy blows there from Shonia, but it just comes down with his hands low, and the attacks are pretty much straightforward. So once you read them, I think you can have quite a comfortable night. I thought Gorokhov had a really, really good round. That's a nice little right hand there, and a few more of those he landed in that round, and starting to control things.
Second zone. Round 4.
So into round 4, the schedule for 10 at super middleweight. Sergei Gorokhov in the silver, Levan Shonia in the blue, and it's Gorokhov who's had the better of this so far. The most even round we've had was the first round, but rounds 2 and 3 have definitely gone Gorokhov's way. Round 1 probably did as well, and as Barry's been saying, he's just settled nicely, and Shonia is finding it more and more difficult to get to him. Basically, he's maintaining good distance here, Gorokhov. We've got to look at it there as we were side on, and although he is throwing in these hooks here, Shonia, he's being made to miss a lot, and when he is aiming for that midsection, Gorokhov's able to just drop the elbow on it. So it's turning into a decent polished display, this. And he's still a long way from home though, and Shonia will keep coming and coming and coming.
But I understand, trying to tire a guy out, but you have to be, even if you're losing the round, you have to make sure he's working really, really hard. You have to make him feel a bit of pain when you can, and also make him non-stop throwing punches. I don't think Shonia's feet are fast enough. He needs to be a little bit more committed, like he was in the first round, to his attacks. And even if he's not going to throw a lot, just put pressure with your feet, make him feel your presence, and that disturbs your breathing. And then, but at the moment, Gorokhov not being able to push Shonia back, and that's a worry there for Shonia, of course.
Just a little uppercut on the inside there. Didn't get a great view of that, but you just saw the head just snap back slightly. And as you said right at the start, Barry, with that kind of high guard, hunched over, he is a candidate for that always.
And also, you mentioned in the first round where Gorokhov threw that left jab to the body. But then, especially with someone like Shonia, who don't really think about what's coming back, you throw that jab to the head, one to the body, and then you fire that right hand right over the top. Just turn from the core, push off that back leg, totally commit to it, because the guy, he's got no lateral movement. He's not going to be moving. If you hit him with the jab, you'll be able to hit him with the right hand. And whether you can hurt Shonia or not is yet to be seen, but that will tire him out, that's for sure. Taking punches is one of the most tiring exercises you can do. Trust me, I've been there.
Well, thankfully for me, I haven't. Final 20 seconds of the round, and it's been another good one here for Gorokhov. Just keeping that lead hand busy. Good right to the pit of the stomach there as well. Short left hand just caught him on the chin as he was on the way in. He's been good and accurate the longer this fight has gone on. And that just chips away, doesn't it? They're not massive shots, but they register.
Yeah, and what you said at the end there, as the round's gone on, I think that's important. He's getting better as the fight progresses, and that's a sign of a decent fighter, actually. It's ironic that he's not. I think he's winning the fight quite comfortable. Yet most of the replays are Shonia doing some good work, but it's for me they're little pockets of success. And most of the good work is coming from Gorokhov. And for me, I think the first round was very close, but the last 3 rounds have been relatively comfortable for Gorokhov. He just when he has that little bit of space between the two, there's a bit of space between the front feet, then he's been able to pick his shots quite comfortable.
Round 5.
Looks to the right hand there, Gorokhov, but it just slipped over the shoulder of Shonia. Just started off the Russian with a nice busy lead left hand again. Good cuffing right hand there as he was kind of hunched over slightly and on his way in. Just caught him round about the ear, which can always do a bit of damage.
Shonia, oh, that's a good, nice little shot there from Shonia. You have to take one back though. Again, not being able to move that head after he throws a shot is costing him dearly. But he just needs to quicken his feet up if he can. Because you see, he starts the round off, Shonia, and he's trying to push Gorokhov back. But it only lasts 30 seconds, and it has in the last 2 or 3 rounds. And then he sort of runs out of steam. And that's because he's taking shots going forward, and there's no real guile to his work.
Well, increasingly he is getting picked off on the way in, isn't he? You just see that head just rock back a little bit every now and again, because he's not trying to do too much here, Gorokhov, basically. He knows that, as you've been saying, that Shonia is going to come in a straight line, so finding the target is not in itself going to be all that difficult, and volume is working for him here, rather than just loading up and trying to hammer him with huge shots. He's just hitting him often.
Yeah, and unless you have the ability or the inclination to take, good shot there though, the inclination to take a shot, to give a shot, that's understandable, but he don't really have the ability to move his feet after he gets caught to come forward, so he's taking shots, but he's flat-footed. So that takes out of you, even if it's not hurting you, it's mentally draining, and ultimately physically also. He's having a bit more of a pop here though, but I think that's more to do with Gorokhov allowing him to come forward a little bit more here.
Well, he was looking to let rip with a big left hand there, Shonia. Looked for the uppercut there. That didn't miss by too far. It's slightly on the angle he throws that with that right hand. He's gone for it a few times and he's not had too much success with it just yet. A good right hand there from Gorokhov again as Shonia just rolls forward. He's never allowing him to get too close or get onto his shoulder, onto his chest.
He has loads of quality here, Gorokhov, but he's thrown some lovely little shots, and they've been mainly right hands, short clipping right hands, and a couple of uppercuts he's thrown, which have been nice quality. Just needs a little bit more strength behind his left hand, you'd like to see. But at the minute, it's 5 rounds gone, and I got him winning everything so far. The first round was a little bit closer, but for me, I think he's won the last The rest of the rounds, prior to the first, relatively comfortable.
No, I would agree with that.
Again, they don't hurt those shots, but look, the frustration there. Shonia had to reset himself again because he just got clipped with a little shot. But when you fight in straight lines with lack of head movement, lack of lateral movement, no upper body movement to say, you're going to take shots. So you have to either use your forearms and block and counter, or just accept the fact that you're going to get caught. But it just doesn't seem to have the guile to do anything else at the minute, or the intelligence, which is a worry for him. Because for me, Andy, he hasn't put enough pressure on Gorokhov here to really make him feel the pace.
No, in the first couple of rounds, at the start of the first round, that's what he looked to do. He looked to get on him and try and shock him, I think, at the start and establish some kind of superiority. But from that point onwards, he warmed into his task, Gorokhov. He was maybe caught slightly cold right at the start of the fight. He's having a decent little spell there, though. Did get a couple through. Gorokhov just pushed the ball back towards the ropes, but he's not really been able to get any momentum going, and I think you're right, frustration has started to play a bit of a part for Shonia as well, because he can never get himself into a position where he can just really let those hands go. He will just be hoping that maybe Gorokhov will slow down, but well, he's just dabbing in his nose there. He's got a little bit of a bad habit at times, Gorokhov, of just taking a walk as though he feels the referee should get involved, and then the referee doesn't, and all of a sudden he's not really taking great care of himself.
Well, it's not a little habit, it's a terrible habit. He literally almost turns his back, doesn't he? It's the weirdest thing. We all have little stupid little habits, but turning away from your opponent is the worst one you can possibly do. But again, it's a similar pattern with Shonia starting fast, putting pressure on Gorokhov, and he tried to maintain a little bit more in this round, but the quality in his work, though he's had a better round for me so far, but the quality in his work is not really there. He takes too many coming forward. That's his problem. If he could just stay nice and low and roll coming forward, he would be far more effective. Good left hander there from him, but he has to take one back again.
Well, that was a decent smearing right hand there from Shonia, and I think he was encouraged by that because he followed it up with a left, and now he's just looking to try and manhandle Gorokhov a bit, but there's a good uppercut on the inside again there, and that just takes the sting out of the attack there of Shonia, who I think was beginning to fancy it a bit, but once again, that right hand, that little short right hook that just sneaks in behind the guard has been a profitable one for Gorokhov since about the second or third round. He's found a home for that, and he's worked well right to the body there too.
He's struggling for the pace here himself, isn't he, Shonia? I mean, we've been on his case a little bit, haven't we, to be fair, in this fight, but I think that was his best round.
But what you do have to say for him, and we said this at the very start, and this is why he's been picked for this kind of match, is that he does always come to win. He's got those defeats, but he's never been stopped, and he will always try and win. And in the position we're in at the minute in world boxing, with these shows behind closed doors, just the 5 fights, that's how it is currently. And we discussed this right at the start. If you're going to use away corner fighters, then they have to be of that mould, don't they? Because they don't all try and win, as we know. Some of them will win every now and again, but they more come to tuck up and survive and get through. But promoters are looking for fighters who are going to give you a fight, and Shonia is definitely one of them.
Yeah, he is, and because records can be deceiving, of course, but anyone can fight on a given day, and this is the opportunity for some of these guys who relegate themselves mentally to just taking the loss and taking their wages to have a, to not get penalised for having a go against a prospect. And people in the trade will understand that more than people who are not in the trade, of course. But some of these guys just come and take their money and don't want to upset the apple cart because they want to box next week or a couple of days' time for another promoter. They want to be used on a regular basis.
Just looking for the uppercut there, Shonia. Slightly short, just fainted with that left hand in that corner, maybe just trying to draw Gorokhov in a touch there. And was he having a chat with him? I think that's what the referee was indicating to him. He's just trying to do anything he can to try and disrupt his flow and his composure.
He tried in that last round there, Chaniev, to show that physique. He looks stocky. He looks like he might have a bit of strength, and he tried to impose that in that last round for the full 3 minutes, which was I think that was more important. In the other rounds, he's done it for 30 seconds and sort of run out of steam a little bit. And I just wonder whether that might be his last little push. That was his little second wind, maybe. Because Gorokhov's boxed quite well, but he himself is relatively basic as well. But that's not bad. Sometimes you can be too imaginative. Sometimes the basics are the best things to do. The left hand, the right cross, and you keep things simple, and it's nice and neat and it's effective, especially when you've got a guy who fights in straight lines coming at you.
That was a decent right hand. He just took a little half step back there, found the right range for it. But there against that right that he just loops in around the back of that left glove of Shonia's, and that's got through good number of times, whether to the jaw or slightly higher on the head. And he has figured out the best way of getting through as clean as he can. He's not really jabbed, has he? We talked about the jab first 2 or 3 rounds maybe, and that he could have been a bit busier with it, but he's decided on the evidence of what's in front of him that the best shots for him have been the uppercut, really, and that short right hook.
But the jab would have set that up a little bit cleaner. The execution could have been more effective if he would have popped that left jab in his face, left it sometimes, or stepped behind that jab. But again, doing some good work here. But it's the right hand that's I think his best punch in this fight so far for Gorokhov. That's a good little bit of work there for him then, just throwing that jab and then the right hand to the body, just making Shonia drop the elbows and swinging that right hand over the top. There's a bit of intelligence there behind his work. There's a bit of upper body movement there we see as well, just making Shonia miss, coming back with some good work. I think for me at the whole, he obviously massively dominated the fight, but he's shown some little spurts of quality. Things that you see you could work with.
Round 8.
So into the 8th, Sergei Gorokhov in the silver, Levan Shonia in the predominantly blue shorts, and it's Gorokhov who was fancied to win this with the record of 9 wins, 2 defeats and 2 draws, as opposed to Shonia's 15 wins and 18 defeats. And that is the case at the moment. And Shonia's got 3 rounds left really to find a stoppage, to find a knockout. And he will never stop trying to do that. He will roll forward right until the end of the 10 rounds, the end of the full 30 minutes.
See, what he did just then, if he can stick with that, it's wild. But I think Gorokhov struggles with that sort of intensity. If Shonia can just bite on that gum shield and just really put the foot on the pedal, then he might have a chance to have one of those big wide overhand rights or those looping left hooks. Could catch Gorokhov and get him in a bit of trouble. I think but he needs that intensity, that commitment to his work here, Shonia. for the lack of jab, maybe then you need a little bit of a feint here from Gorokhov. Maybe a little feint and half a step back, then whip that right uppercut. Then you have a guy coming forward and over the front foot, and that big target, that big head is there to throw, there to catch. Good body shot.
And the punch output, actually, I was just going to say, from Gorokhov has dropped a bit in this round, the first 2 minutes of this round. He was leaning in a little bit more, trying to tie Shonia up, and I just wondered whether in the final minute the Georgian might be able to really come on, but he's upped it just slightly.
That was good from there as well, there from Gorokhov. Just making Shonia miss a little bit, like half a step back, and came back with a three-punch combination.
Well, that was neatly done. Left hand and then the right hand pretty much straight into the stomach. He's in good shape, Shonia, but he'll definitely be feeling those.
Well, what he's done, I think, what's helped him maintain the punch output mostly is that he stayed nice and relaxed with the shots. He hasn't really loaded up on anything, which is just body mechanics. He's kept nice and loose and relaxed, and he's rather than tense up, and that drains a lot of energy. He's just stayed nice and relaxed. And another good, for me, another really good round for him. For almost every round, he's boxed pretty well, hasn't he?
He has, and as you said there, he's never looked to just try and really tee off on Shonia with big shots, even though he knows that he's just walking straight into him. The temptation to do that would be there. Obviously, it'd be fairly immense at times. But one of the reasons why Shonia's not been able to get anything done is that when he has tried to close that gap, he's just consistently been hit. And as you said before, it means that he's not able really to get himself into a position where he can get anything done, because he's always having to reset, as you put it.
Well, once you go an aggressive fight, once he has to take a step back, then it doesn't matter if he's rushing at you. If your punches can make you take half a step back, then he has to come again. He has to rethink. He has to rethink the whole ethos of what he's trying to do. He has to reset it all the time, and that's physically draining, but it's mentally draining also, because you're not having any sustained success.
So 2 to go, right to the body there from Gorokhov, and Shonia once again is just looking to try and pursue a good jab there, kind of little up jab. There didn't seem to be room for it, because he keeps that guard tight and high for the most part there. Shonia again just slightly short with the uppercut. He's fancied that a few times, the Georgian. He's just not quite managed to get it through. Well, that was a strange one, just punching down on the back top of Gorokhov's head with the bottom of his fist. Just before that, though, he did get through with that uppercut to the body.
That's good, though, there from Gorokhov. He threw a jab and he just dipped his head and threw a right hand straight after.
Well, that's a push. No knockdown.
You just see, look at Gorokhov there. You see he throws that left hand. If there was a little more weight, if he just stamped behind it, maybe it would be far more effective. But as you mentioned earlier, he's shown good fitness. He's coped with the pressure quite well.
He's just having a little bit of joy here, Shonia. An uppercut got through there, and Gorokhov, for the first time, is just beginning to look a little bit ragged. Left hand got through there too, and that was a solid shot. Ragged's maybe overstating the case slightly, but he's not quite as smooth as he was. He's a little bit more jerky. He's still working hard in this final minute, but Shonia, I think, rang his bell slightly there. doubling up on that left hand there, Gorokhov, then looking for the right. Bit of tape just trailing off the wrist of one of the gloves there of Shonia. Final few seconds, right uppercut, and the gum shield has come out.
I couldn't see the gum shield for a minute. I thought he just did that turn away that he does was manifested his way into an even worse position, looking to put his gloves on the floor.
Slapping right hand almost there from Shonia, who walks through a couple to try and push it back onto the ropes. Good upper body movement there from Gorokhov, but Shonia, second half of that round, had his moments. But with just 3 minutes remaining here and a minute's rest now, I think Gorokhov will be able to negotiate this one safely enough. But he did have some joy in that round.
Yeah, I thought it was. I think he had a better round. What was it, maybe round 6? But I think that was one of his better rounds for sure. Again, it's just a little bit sustained. There's that little chopping down with the right hand of the back of the head, but yeah, just a little bit more sustained pressure rather than just go all out in the first 30 seconds. He tried to reduce the output a little bit in the first half, but just maintain it throughout the 3 minutes. And it's difficult to do, but with that sort of style, that's the way he has to fight. But he hasn't had enough success for me. I think he has put enough pressure on Gorokhov to make him feel the pace, to make him worry, make him panic. And Gorokhov's sort of been able to keep his shape quite effectively throughout the fight. So if he can do that for 3 more minutes, then it's a good little win for him.
So 10th and final round, and they do have to touch gloves before the start of the final round, whatever the duration of the fight. And he's just looking over his corner there because they've forgotten to put the gum shield in. Surprising how often you see that. So final 2.5 minutes here. Sergei Gorokhov in the silver, Levan Shonia in the blue, and he's looking to try and get to work in the final round. He's never stopped coming forward and trying to unload on Gorokhov. Gorokhov has just had a bit too much accuracy and discipline and ability to let him do that. But there were signs in that 9th round that he was beginning to feel the pace himself here, Gorokhov, and Shonia will need to give it everything he's got, and he does it again there, just spins around, turns his back and just walks off to the opposite corner, and there was no involvement there from the referee, who actually kind of let him do it, which he shouldn't.
But he got caught with a good left hand there, Gorokhov, and the referee sort of stepped in to tell him to stop turning around. Was that? Yeah,
it's really, really odd, that habit he's got of every now and again something happens that he doesn't like, and he basically stops fighting. And Shonia just looking to come forward here. He was caught by a good right hand there from Gorokhov, but I mean, it's something that they've got to make sure that he gets it out of his mind, because it will cost him. Either he will get caught when he's not defending himself, or he'll find himself potentially docked points for, as I say, refusing to fight. Right hand there from Shonia was a good shot. He stepped in with it. Good 1-2 there though from Gorokhov. Yeah, and Shonia felt that, didn't he? You could see his knees just loosened slightly for the first time heading into the final round. It's been a good final round, this. Shonia had his success up until that point, but Gorokhov just rocked him back on his heels, and he probably needed to, because if he hadn't, then he could have been in possibly for a bit of a torrid final 60 seconds. And again,
just exhausted,
good 1-2. Yes, I think you're absolutely right. He's given it a real crack in these last 2 rounds, Levan Shonia, and just as he was having some joy, he's now taking a bit of a beating into the final 30 seconds.
Just before this little exchange here, he got caught Shonia with a lovely right hand, and Shonia did the right thing and just barged forward. With no punches, but just enough to smother the work there at Gorokhov. Good finish though here. It's been a decent little fight as it goes. Good shot.
Nice right hand again there, doesn't it? Just crunches into the side of the head, into the jaw. It has. It's been an enjoyable watch.
Oh.
And he's finishing well here, Gorokhov. A bit of aggression there. He's really looking to put it on him and see if he can get him out of there right at the very end. Couldn't quite do it, but that was a good final round. Shonia brought it in the opening minute or so, and as we were saying, he did have some success, but then he just got rocked by quality 1-2, which really just put him back in his box. And after that, Gorokhov stepped on him and finished very well, actually, in the end.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a really good round. I thought you just stay safe in this last round now, work beyond the jab and you skate home, but got caught with the shot there and did that stupid turnaround stuff, but then I think he caught Shonia with the right hand. I don't know if we're going to get to see it after this little exchange here, and you can just see Shonia, the energy drained from him. It might be that one there. The energy just drained from him, and then he did the right thing that he tried to push Gorokhov back just to save himself. And this is the last few seconds of the round here where Gorokhov was wishing for 10 more seconds, you can imagine, because he might have got that what looked like an impossible stoppage. But listen, you can't fault a kid for dominating for most of the fight, finishing the last 10th round strongly, and he just got a lot of things to work on. But all in all, that was a decent little performance from him.
10 rounds straight out of the gate, first fight after lockdown and all of the difficulties, so he'll be delighted to get that done. And it was very, very worthwhile outing. Just on that incident in the final round, and as we've been talking about, we saw him turn his back a few times. He turned and span, and as Shonia pursued him, the referee got in and stopped him, and he's got absolutely no business doing that, the referee there. That is some poor refereeing. Just a strange habit that he's got there. Really, really strange. But it's a good performance for him, as you've been saying, and it's a good win.
В этом поединке единогласным решением судей победу почками одержал боксер красного угла Сергей Gorokhov из Kaliningrad, Россия.
Well, he gets the win. I don't think there was ever going to be any doubt about that. There was maybe a couple possibly of rounds that you could have given to Shonia throughout the course of the 10 rounds, but it's a good fight to come back with, and he was a good opponent because he was always going to make him work. And we're at the Diamond in Minsk, Belarus. First of 4 KOld Wars that we're bringing you. The next one is next Thursday, 23rd of July. Then after that, we go on Monday night on the 3rd of August. And then for the 4th and final time, the very next night on the 4th. And as I said at the beginning, I've teased you a bit, but I can't let too much out of the bag because that's down to our Siesta to decide when he's going to release the matchups. But there's some interesting fights coming. There are some interesting pairings coming involving some fighters, as I said, that you may not necessarily be expecting. It's a kind of fascinating operation all round this. There was always a lot of ambition and creativity behind it. It's not an easy thing to do at all, and I assure you, not just anybody could have done it.
And let's not forget, he's had to really scour the earth to get some late replacements here for this show, because there was going to be some UK fighters on the bill, and obviously they weren't allowed to travel or fight yet under their British Boxing World licence, so he had to do a little bit of creative matchmaking.
Yes, these things test promoters at all levels, and the embassy's trying to get the microphone back, and he's not having any luck at all, because this is his moment here, Sergei Gorokhov. And this is another thing to consider with the situation we're in and where we're at the moment, is that fighters who don't normally get TV are getting TV. For example, on Saturday night at BT Sports Studios, I'm covering that one for radio, and there's a cracking Southern Area Super Bantamweight title fight between Chris Bourke and Ramiz Mahmoud, and it's chief support. That would not have happened if we weren't in the situation that we're in at the minute. But it's great that it's getting that kind of billing, because it's going to be a really good fight, and some boxing fans won't have heard of those two, but I guarantee you they will enjoy watching that. So it's a land of opportunity at the minute, Barry, really, isn't it, in so many ways?
Of course it is, because you might unearth a future star, or who might have been a future star anyway. But that road to the top will be accelerated for them. But as we've said before already, long competitive matches are far more important now than bigger names right now. The product has to be good, not just the packaging at this particular time.
I'm not sure we'll see Joe Joyce extended too much against Michael Wallisch, to be honest. I mean, we all know what the crack is with Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois with their fights. Dubois boxing at the end of August against Eric Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer, though, I've seen him in WSB. He's boxed at the highest level as an amateur. He is a good fighter, but they're both supposed to win those fights and then box on October the 24th, obviously. And Wallisch looks to me like he looks the part. He's got a decent record in with FA Jagba and Tony Yoka recently, but he'll pretty much stand in front of Joyce with a high guard, and it'll just be a case of how long he can stay there. But for those two, Barry, you'd expect that. Either they're going to wait and just fight each other, or they're going to have a tune-up, and that's all they've got.
Again, in the normal climate of things, I think that would be acceptable. You know, to keep them busy and to see them as well. You want to know nothing better than seeing a heavyweight blast out another guy. That's what they get paid so much money for. But I still think, and I'm not criticising the show at all, I still think that what's going on at the minute, maybe the public won't buy that at the minute. They won't fall for that. They won't accept that. For any shows, because there's not just that them particular fights. There's other shows where fights are going to be one-sided. Before you can understand, because you're building a fighter up. But the paying public don't care about you building a fighter up. That's not their job. I think in a normal circumstance, then that you buy that, because the whole camera lights, circus event around it, and the crowds, and makes it an event, not just but no, they're not events. They're just fights in an empty hall or someone's back garden or a TV studio. So they're not events. It's just pure boxing. So you want to see competitive matches, and that's just. And it's hard for these matchmakers who have been building fighters to be stars, who want to be busy. Now they've got to risk all the good work they've done by chucking them in with fighters maybe they wouldn't have fought until maybe 2, 3, 5 fights down the line.
Well, you mentioned the back garden there, and the next week, next Saturday, it's off to Matchroom's back garden in Leafy, Essex, and there are plenty of those kind of matchups on that card. There's a couple of what you would definitely describe as crossroads fights. Sam Eggington against Ted Cheeseman. I think for that one, defeat would probably be slightly less damaging for Eggington just because of his overall attitude. I think he would keep going. For Cheeseman, I think it would be difficult for him to stomach another defeat, because he's always been looking at a world title. That's been his ambition. But we've got Reece Bellotti against Jordan Gill and James Tennyson against Gavin Gwynn. Some real interesting ones.
Yeah, there are, and I think you've got. Certainly with the Gwynn fight, there's a clear favourite there with Tennyson, of course. But I think Gwynn will show up and he will give it his all, and he'll make a good account of himself. I don't think he'll win, but I think he'll give a good account of himself. And I think the Eggington-Cheeseman fight is, again, neither guy for me now is going to go beyond maybe domestic European level again. That's obviously for Eggington, because he's been to European level. But I still think that it's a really exciting fight because styles clash, and that's what you need. And as for Bellotti and Gill, it's not a crossroads fight there, but that is a very important fight in this stage of their career, because I think they both thought they were going to be moved on by now, and they've had little stutter steps in their career. So I think they want to put on a show.
Прошу приветствовать тепло. Он поднимается на ринг первым. And now, please welcome Artem Ayvadizi.
So the next fight we've got here, this is 8 rounds in the super lightweight division. Making his way to the ring shortly, Artem Ayvadizi from Odessa in Ukraine. He's had an interesting kind of career. He went 10-0, starting life in the home corner as a prospect. And after that, he changed approach, picked up his stool, headed for the away corner, and that's where he's been since. He's been in with some high-quality operators, Victor Postol and Kirill Relik, a couple who have managed to stop him. And he's boxed twice this year, going through the rounds over 6 and over 8. So that's one advantage that he will have against his opponent from tonight, which is Gaib Gadzhi. He's been out of the ring for a while. So Gadzhi is a very well-schooled, seasoned fighter. He had an extensive amateur career, boxed at the World Championships in Kazakhstan in 2013. Did his best work though really in World Series boxing, which when it comes to a professional career is encouraging, because obviously that was the 5 3-minute rounds. He had a very, very good record, and he had 2 big wins in the same season against Yasnia Toledo, the season when the Baku Fighters lost a brilliant WSB final against the Cuban Domadoro, 6-5 on the tie-break. So I'm very interested to see what he can do for us tonight, having watched him at that stage. And he's been in deep recently, but he does need a win.
Всегда готовый бросить вызов из города Немира, Украина, Artem Ayvadizi! Boxer in the blue corner, weighing in 62.9 kilograms, standing 169 centimeters tall, age 38. His record is 12 wins, 18 losses and 1 tie. Always ready to challenge. Fighting out of Libya, Ukraine, Artem Ayvadizi. В красном углу ринга. Любимец публики по обе стороны Кавказского хребта. Ему 29 лет, рост 170 сантиметров, вес 63 килограмма 100 граммов. Его рекорд 6 побед, 2 поражения, 2 ничьи. Из города Дербента, Дагестан, Россия. In the red corner, public favorite of both sides of the Caucasian Ridge, weighing in 63.1 kilograms, standing 170 centimeters tall, age 29, professional record, 6 wins, 2 losses and 2 ties, fighting out of Derbent, Dagestan, Russia, Gaib Gadzhi!
So that's the tale of the tape for these two. And I mentioned that he's been in deep recently, Gadzhi. He went 6-0, and he was progressing from 6 rounds to 8 rounds quickly. He started off his professional debut at 6 rounds, which is not unusual for fighters who have had a lot of WSB experience. It's what you expect. We mentioned Joe Joyce a few minutes ago. He had 20 or so WSB fights, and he started off with a scheduled 10-rounder. It's the way things are done now, really. But he picked up a defeat against Georgy Choloksayev. That was over the distance. And then went straight in against Denis Shafikov, a former European champion and world title challenger, and drew that one. Then in his last fight, a split decision defeat against Pavel Malikov in a fight which I think it's fair to say he was probably expected to win. So it's admirable when you see these guys turn over and look to get things done very, very quickly. We've seen Shakram Girsov and Israel Madrimov and Murajon Akhmadaliev and how quickly they're moving with World of Boxing. But the difficulty, Barry, I suppose, is that no matter how good you are or your backers think you might be, everybody gets affected by losing. And with 2 defeats in his last 3 fights, he absolutely must win tonight and ideally look good doing it and restore a bit of confidence.
Yeah, sure. Boxing really is a confident sport. You know, the more the wins, you roll on, you build confidence from that. And if you learn from each contest, then you obviously ultimately get better. And a few defeats can make you question yourself, especially if you get stopped or anything. Then you question your chin, your desire, and also what you're in it for, because you all turn pro with aspirations to being the best on the planet. And if you've had a good amateur career, then you're really set that you're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And sometimes that don't work out for everybody. And yeah, once you start picking up a few losses, then we've seen many a fighter go from prospect to journeyman in a pretty quick time frame. Lovely left up to the body.
29 years old. Gadzhi, he's in the silver. Ayvadizi in the red.
Good here from Gadzhi.
Just short with the right hand there.
Yeah, he's just looking to try and make Ayvadizi just throw a shot, isn't he? Just forcing him with that front foot, putting a bit of pressure on him, so he can just counter with a bit of a quality shot.
Dips quite low at the waist there, Gadzhi. And then trying to put some power into those hooks to the body again there, just working from quite close range. Just sticks that head in, as you say, just trying to tempt Ayvadizi in.
But even though he's trying to be a bit of an aggressive counter puncher here, just needs to be a little bit more assertive, I think, with that front foot, a little bit more pressure with the feet, with the body. And that's the problem. When you've had a long, extensive amateur career, it's all about just picking up the points, isn't it? Picking your shot. So when you land with a good shot, sometimes you don't look for the next punch. You don't capitalise on it. You're thinking, in the amateur code, that's a good shot. I'm well ahead. I don't need to do much more. There you go, that's from Gadzhi trying to do there, just kind of as busy there, just to come forward, just he's blocked with the forearms and snip back with a lovely little left hook.
Again, just out of the crouch there, Gadzhi.
He picks his shots well, and there's no need to rush his work, really. But you just, again, because he's so dominant, you can see that he could be so dominant that you just feel that if you just slid that front foot a little bit closer and let the punches go sometimes in 2s and 3s, I think he has the ability to do that. Just see it there, and I see it right uppercut, left hook. Then he sticks back to that, just happy to slip and slide.
Just doubling up, tripling up with that left hand. Not a great deal of weight behind them. Nice couple of uppercuts there, though. Just got through. Jab just popped out there from Ayvadizi. Right hand just...
Sort of left uppercut screw shot there from Gadzhi.
Nice and quick with the hands there, Gadzhi. He's not trying to do too much. He's not trying to put too much into every shot, and it's always a good sign, that. Nice uppercut there. Well, just holding him around the back of the head. He's never gonna get away with that.
Cute work, and nice bit of footwork there. Bit defensive, mind, but the right idea there, working around the target, looking for those different gaps, those different angles of attacks. A nice comfortable round there from Gadzhi.
He's just warming into it, isn't he?
His punches quite effectively.
He's warming into it nicely. But he's doing an okay job here, Ayvadizi. As I said, he's trod on the boards against some big-name opposition. That was the route that he chose to take it. He's had a few rounds under his belt this year.
He did up the pace, but it's still early in the fight. Everything's quite comfortable for him, and he's picking his shots quite well and dominating. Ayvadizi there not really been able to really have much success. He's trying to land with that jab when he can, but just a little bit slow off the mark, and quite easy for Gadzhi there just to pick him off at will.
So the bell going for the start of round 3. This in the super lightweight division, scheduled for 8. Gadzhi in the silver, Ayvadizi in the red, and the super lightweight.
It's a good right hand there, right out of the gate, and a left hook to the body. Gadzhi.
Looking for the uppercut there, Gadzhi. Didn't quite time it, but then did find the left hand to the body.
In total control here, Gadzhi. You can see that amateur pedigree shining through. Sort of the criticisms that he is just picking one shot at a time, but still controlling stuff and dictating the pace. Not really into second gear yet. Trying to encourage Ayvadizi there to throw shots. And Ayvadizi just a little bit tentative, worried that he is going to get caught, because that's what's happening for him right now. Every time he throws a shot, he's getting paid back with a bit of more quality work there from Gadzhi.
Just holding out that lead hand, that left hand there, Gadzhi, trying to measure the distance. Maybe look for that right hand. Just shuffling forward again, almost throws a right hand lead there. And the second time, just varying things up.
Nice uppercut there from Gadzhi.
Decent bit of body work there, just digging to the...
Could have come back with something more. That's a nice little explosion of pace there from Gadzhi. But just prior to that, he threw that lovely right uppercut, left hook. Rolled twice. It's a beautiful bit of work, but he could have finished with another combination. That's a good shot. Lovely, stiffing that jab. And Ayvadizi there, just a little bit slow with that left hand. Doesn't come back fast enough. Gadzhi just easily been able to counter it.
Well, just taking the gum shield out, and he's doing okay here, Ayvadizi. Gadzhi's not going too crazy, as we've been saying. He's just looking for those openings, just trying to draw Ayvadizi in.
Round 4.
So into the fourth, they're scheduled for 8 in the super lightweight division. Gadzhi, who we've been talking about for the most part, he's in the silver, and in the red there is Artem Ayvadizi. Again, just leaning and looking for that little rangefinder with the right hand. He tried that a couple of times in the first round, and he does that little trick where he just leans in with his head. He makes it available to his opponent to try and draw something to him, and then he'll just pull it back, left to the body there again from Gadzhi. Would be good to see him just kind of click through the gears a little bit as we progress through the rounds, and there's every chance he will do that. Well, that's a low blow. Well, it looked like one. That's what he's saying there, Ayvadizi, but he's getting the count anyway. And he's just managed to get up and beat it. Well, his reaction seemed to suggest that that was a little bit on the low side. Touch of gloves between the two.
Almost a clever bit of footwork there from Gadzhi, but he needed to get a bit closer first, didn't he, before he did that little step to the side. Just a little bit too far out when he tried it.
Coming up with the left hand there, Gadzhi. He's never looked really stung with a headshot at any point, Ayvadizi. But plenty have got through.
But you can see he doesn't throw with any confidence because he's more aware, worried about what's coming back rather than, you know, really committed with hitting the target. So comfortable for Gadzhi. He sometimes looks like he's not really bothered or motivated to really put on a show. Can you sort of see what I'm trying to say? He looks good and he's dominating with ease and he's done some lovely work. But you can see that he can put his foot on the gas a little bit and still have plenty of energy to spare.
No, I see exactly what you're saying, and that was kind of what I meant when I said that it'd be good to see him click through the gears and turn the screw as the rounds progress, because I think we do need to see him do that. At the moment, he looks good, and we know about his background, but this is resembling a spar at the moment, really, and for a first fight back out of the recent situation, that's in a sense understandable. But I did find this, and that was the left hand, which definitely did look low, but he did get the count. 100% that is a low blow.
It is a low blow, but I've got to say, it's a lovely idea, because you just see he feints with the right hand before he throws it. This is not the case in point, obviously, this is the second attack, but he just feinted with the right hand before he, and the left hook was just a little bit low, but it's a beautiful combination. It didn't quite come off. You can see the quality, when he goes to work, the quality in his whole makeup is fantastic. And you can see why he's medalled in so many, obviously, competitions as an amateur.
So into the second half of this one. I do think, though, given this situation that we're in now, and we've been talking about the matchmaking and the need for competitive fights, and we discussed how fighters who wouldn't necessarily get TV are now getting TV and getting a platform. When you get it, you have to take advantage of it. I was covering an ESPN Plus card in Germany on the weekend, and the opening fight was a heavyweight fight, and there was a fighter dominating, and he was looking good. But then he didn't really go for it in the 5th and 6th rounds. He had the fight completely under control, and his corner was saying to him, don't take any risks. And I was thinking, that is not the right thing to say. This is a situation where you've got to take a few risks and try and get the stoppage. Nothing crazy and risk losing necessarily, but... And I think it'd be good to see Gadzhi here force the issue. And he may well do. I could be jumping the gun because we're only halfway through the fight. But personally, I think he does need to do it. I think you need to be catching the eye off the back of a couple of indifferent results and getting the stoppage if at all possible.
Well, you can see that he could do this, quite comfortable in this fight. Could he slipping punches coming forward? He's countering with ease, and I think he's enjoying himself. But you want people to say, "I want to see that kid again." That's you always want that anyway, but now more than ever, you want people to have a thirst to want to watch you fight again. And I think you're given that platform now. Sometimes you don't get a second chance. Again, there he did everything right. Did the little step with the feet, but just didn't do anything after.
Well, that was a good body shot, and as soon as that one landed, you could see that it had an effect. The right hand just distracted him a little bit, maybe. Then the left got straight in, piercing in behind the elbow, and you could hear the groan, and down he went to a knee, and he's going to go after him a bit here, I think, in the final 40 seconds of round 5. But that was a good right hand on the inside there from Ayvadizi, and that has just bought him a few seconds. It's just managed to repress the onslaught, but there's another one that he thinks is low there, Ayvadizi. It was on our blind side, so he didn't really get a look at it. But again, he's been counted, and I'm not sure he's going to make it here. He just about gets back to his feet for the 8 count. And give him credit, if he was here just to pick up his check, he could have sat this one out by now. And there was another left hand there from Gadzhi, which was borderline. Be interesting to see that previous one again. Well, that's a good round for Gadzhi, just as we were asking him to up the tempo. He's given us something.
Well, he places his shot so well that you know that the body shots are all going to be a good shot for him. That's a beautiful left hook there that Ayvadizi didn't go down from for the reason. It was a lovely shot, really well delivered, in the perfect spot. It'll be interesting to see the second knockdown, but the first knockdown was a beauty. Yeah, but that was a bit more. Oh, that's a great shot. It's not just well placed. There's a bit of weight behind that. You can see the grimace, what he went down there on the face. What we want to see now is his next knockdown.
That looked pretty low to me. And that's 2 that he's been counted for that I would say were fairly obvious fouls, but the referee hasn't managed to spot either of them. A nice uppercut at the start of the round there from Gadzhi.
Just came up with a little bit more intensity there, didn't he? Gadzhi. Yeah, you're right about Ayvadizi. He looks like he's just maybe resigned to lose, and all of a sudden he fires back with some combinations or a sharp little right hand, just to let Ayvadizi know that he's still here and don't take things for granted.
Well, he's digging in, isn't he? He did it right towards the end of that previous round. Gadzhi was looking to really step on him, and he just cracked him with a 1-2, which gave him something to think about, bought him a few seconds, just stemmed the momentum slightly. And it's good to see, because he's well behind here. We're through 5 rounds. He's had 3 knockdowns counted against him, 2 of which shouldn't have been, but they have been. So he's a mile behind on the cards because he's lost every round, and he's lost 3 of them. Well, one of them 10-8 and one of them 10-7. And often in this situation, somebody will take the merest invitation for a way out, but he's not doing that.
No, and sometimes the best defense is offense, isn't it? Sometimes just to push the guy back, just to stop that wave of momentum overcoming you. That's a lovely right hand there, though. Left hand, sorry, from the southpaw stance. You know that they're world-class amateurs when they switch and you don't really realise that they have.
And that was a good left hand. Stepped into that.
Again, there's a lovely bit of movement there from Gadzhi Aliyev, but he just do nothing after it. He stays close to the target, so it doesn't look like a defensive move. It looks like he's moving on the target to let a punch go, but he doesn't. And that makes him a whole different sort of fighter then, if he's moving around the target close to the body and then letting his punches go. Makes him more of a dangerous proposition.
Final few seconds of round 6. And he had a big round the previous round, but he's not managed to make too much of a dent in Ayvadizi in that 6th round. Got 2 more rounds to go here, Gadzhi Aliyev. I mentioned that World Series boxing tournament at the start of the fight, and unfortunately that competition is no longer with us. It wound up over the last year or so as Ayvadizi were having problems, and it's a real shame because firstly it was brilliant to watch, and secondly it was just a great breeding ground for top amateur fighters looking to turn pro, because you've got those 5 3-minute rounds. You look at Usyk and Lomachenko, for example, after the London Olympics they deliberately did a season of WSB and then turned pro, and it's just a kind of perfect springboard, isn't it, Barry, really? So it's a shame that we don't have it anymore.
Well, you're not a novice. When you actually turn professional, in inverted commas, you're no longer a novice, because you've had not just 5 fights or 10 fights. If you've done 2 seasons and got to the final, you've literally had 10 fights at world level. Really, let's be honest. You're boxing world level prospects. Where would that happen if you turn not conventional professional? You're boxing people way below your level for sometimes 10, 15 fights. And so they're turning pro. That's why they've. A lot of these youngsters now, in Lomachenko, they have more title fights in their first, second, or within 10 fights, because they've had those 5-round fights at the highest level as technically an amateur.
As you say, the standard was just so high. A half-and-half record at WSB, that is a good record. And Gadzhi Aliyev's was 13-3, so that tells you a lot. Just looking to try and get on the jab there. He's, as you were saying in the previous round, he's always close to his man. He's always shuffling forward. That front foot's never far away. The head's never far away either. He'll just lean in and tempt you with it.
Nice there, doubling up with the left hook.
Right hand to the stomach there, and he felt that one. You could see him give ground, and there was a little bit of a yelp as well as he backed up. Right hand there, a bit of a delayed reaction too, and a minute and a half to go in round 7 here. And Gadzhi Aliyev has got Ayvadizi not exactly on the run, but he's looking vulnerable.
Oh yeah, he's in a bit of pain there, isn't he? It's not just a winded shot, I don't think.
Well, Ayvadizi boxed as an amateur himself. He was in the military and looked to try and qualify for the World Military Games. Didn't manage to do that, but did box in the army. Good left hand to the body again there, and just a bit of a grimace from him. He's really digging deep here, Ayvadizi, to get through this, but down he goes this time. And he's going to get back up from this, I'm pretty sure about that, but this is getting difficult for him. It's getting painful for him. Well, I think the referee has decided that enough is enough there, hasn't he?
Yeah, and rightly so, I think. You know, if he was remotely competitive, if he'd won at least a couple of rounds, then maybe you'd want to see him get the finish, but he'd lost everything. You know, that was his 4th time down. It's genuine, and you just tend to think that was enough. And it was still enough time in the round to go for more punishment to be inflicted. That's a lovely word, that is. Again, Gadzhi paces his shots really well. You can see that, you know, he's technically pretty good. He has confidence coming forward, staying close to the target and slipping shots. He just needs to, for me, just to put his punches together in clusters every now and again. He moves on the target well, but don't always do the work after. He makes all the movements, all the right movements, and then doesn't finish it off. And I find that a little bit frustrating about him, but he's certainly shown a lot of quality.
And he gave us a finish too. I was getting on his case a bit just after the halfway point of the fight, saying that we did need to see that, given the situation and the chance to impress, and he's done it. And it's always impressive when you see somebody towards the start of their pro career target the body, because it's something that people often don't do, and there's a lot of profit from investing in the body right from the start of a fight. And as we saw, obviously he came in good condition, and there was certainly nothing wrong whatsoever with his attitude, and he did have some ability, but in the end he just got wore down by those body shots, a couple of which were definitely south of the border, and the referee didn't call them, but as you said, he places them so well.
And he also has that lovely vision, so you can see that why he was such a good amateur, because he has that lovely vision. You know, and he can block and counter, or slip and counter quite effectively. But you can see he had a long amateur career also, because he sometimes only throws a single shot, the point scoring shot. Or, you know, as an amateur, you know, it's not loads of stoppages, so you're just piling up the decisions. And I think you just work on that a little bit more of an output after he does the good work.
Well, he needed the win because, as I said at the start, he had 2 defeats and a draw in his previous 3 fights, all at a good level, and the draw had come against Denis Shafikov, so that gives you an indication of where he is, where he could be very soon. But he needed to get the victory tonight, so that was a sensible bit of matchmaking, and I'm sure that they will put him in fairly deep again soon. It's what we're used to seeing with fighters like him, and the super lightweight division has got a lot of interesting campaigners in it, to say the least.
Вы находитесь на премьерном первом шоу целой серии, организованной Siesta и его промоутерской компанией Siesta KOld Wars. Настоящие битвы, которые сочли в себе нордический характер наших широт и возможность наносить солидные нокауты. Мы предлагаем вам использовать время полезно. У нас есть несколько минут, после чего мы вернемся сюда для того, чтобы вновь в лучах белых софитов насладиться боксом, по которому многие так соскучились. Спасибо, что вы с нами.
So the next fight up will be 10 rounds at lightweight between Chaniev and Vladyslav Melnyk, and that could be an interesting contest too. Chaniev has operated at a really good level. We saw him against Richard Comey for the vacant IBF title. It was at that point, and he got cut down in a couple of rounds by Comey. He boxed a bit of a strange fight really, Chaniev, because he went at Comey in the first round, who is a puncher, and it wasn't really the greatest idea. He got put down by a very solid right hand. He got put down heavy in the first, and he never really recovered from it, and then got stopped at the start of the second. And Melnyk, I think, will look at him and feel that there is a real opportunity here. He's 21 years old, 11 wins and 1 defeat. That was a very narrow defeat out of the away corner against a 17-0 fighter for the Ukrainian super lightweight title a little while ago. He's won 5 since, including an away corner win in Germany against an undefeated 8-0 prospect. He will definitely come with a lot of ambition, and that's exactly what we want to see. But Chaniev does have good results on his roster. The win against Ismail Barroso back in May 2018, that qualified him basically for the fight against Commey, and he previously lost narrowly to Robert Easter, Richard Commey. So, and many people felt that he was unlucky in that fight too to win that same title. So he's a high quality of opposition, that's for sure. And of course, the lightweight, Barry, is just one of those divisions where there is just a wealth of talent and good fights to be made. One very interesting fight that's been made in the last couple of days is Gervonta Davis against Leo Santa Cruz. And what's really interesting about... Well, yeah, I was just going to say, that's the really interesting thing. It's being advertised as being the super featherweight and lightweight. And the theory is that because Davis sometimes struggles with the weight, they're hedging their bets in case he misses it. Now, if that's the case, then you really are playing fast and loose with the traditions of boxing there, to be honest, aren't you?
Well, it's ridiculous, isn't it? I don't know why everyone's trying to appease the boxers. It should be an honour to box for a world title, not an honour for the world organisation to give a belt to a boxer. It should be the other way around. You should be chasing these honours. And I think obviously it boils down to sanction fees, and I understand it's a business, but it's become a business of a circus. It's ridiculous. I think, you know, it's the fight on its own. Forget about world titles. It's a fantastic fight. You know, Leo Santa Cruz, you know, he's not a lightweight. He's not really a super featherweight. You know, age has made him move up to super featherweight. It's a fantastic fight that throws lots of punches, and you know, and it's been, you know, top quality. Davis, you know, when he does fight, is absolutely awesome, and you tend to think that he might have the power and the strength to walk right through Santa Cruz, but to give him 2 titles, I don't know why. I don't know why that sort of, you almost try and forget about the absurdity now of the organisation's thinking, because it spoils the enjoyment of the fight, but it shouldn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a great fight, and that's first and foremost, but I don't agree with it myself at all, the way that's being teed up, and as I say, they're hedging basically. I was never a fan when you saw a world title fight at a catch weight when Canelo's boxed at 155 pounds, and other people have done similar things. I think you commit to a weight and you make the weight and you fight, and that's what being a professional is. But yeah, that seems to be an outdated view, but I think we're just about to get our top of the bill in the ring.
Siesta boxing presents to your attention main event of the evening. 10 раундов острой интриги, противостояние боксеров России и Украины в легкой весовой категории. 10 rounds in lightweight division. Но прежде позвольте представить судейскую коллегию главного поединка. Судьи поединка, the judges, Sergei Gorokhov, Андрей Шевелев, Евгений Круглев. Referee in the ring, Vladimir Коваленя. Уважаемые зрители, приветствуйте первым боксера из Украины. Витайте першим. Please welcome Vladyslav Melnyk.
With the barabali,
Well, as I mentioned, Melnyk will see this as a real opportunity because Chaniev, although only 27 years old and with only 16 fights on his record, he will feel, Melnyk, that Chaniev is going down the other side of the hill because having lost that fight against Komi, he then also lost last October to Pavel Malikov by majority decision. That was over 12 rounds. Malikov, though, a good fighter. He was the one who edged out Gadzhi in his previous fight. But I watched his fight against Edgar Walf yesterday, Melnyk, and he's a decent fighter, technically sound, he works hard, he'll bring plenty of pressure, and as I say, crucially, plenty of ambition.
And now, let us invite the boxer from the Republic of Ingushetia, Russia, Chaniev!
For Chaniev, really, this is a must-win. He's up against a younger man here, somebody who's not lived at anything like the level he has so far. And he'll be confident, of course, that he can get the win, but it really is as simple as that. If he can't Barry, then his career at a certain level basically is over.
Yeah, it is. I think he's still young enough to come again, but it's a tall mountain to climb, isn't it? After just the win, just the loss to Komi's not the end of the world, but 2 losses on the spin, or at least 3 losses on the spin against a young guy who hasn't boxed nowhere near your level. That will affect your confidence massively, and also will affect the way promoters and other people look at you. And now, obviously, when the way promoters look at you affects your financial worth.
Знакомьтесь, участники главного боя вечера. Боксер в синем углу. Ему 21 год. Рост 171 сантиметр. Вес 61 килограмм 750 граммов. Его рекорд весьма убедителен. 11 побед при единственном поражении. Он настроенный побеждать. Из славного места Миргорода, Полтавской области Украины. Boxer in the blue corner, weighing in 61.75 kilos, standing 171 centimeters tall, age 21, holding professional record of 11 wins with the 1 loss, straight out to Mirgorod, Ukraine, Vladyslav Melnyk! Ровно по диагонали. В красном углу российский боксер. Ему 27 лет. Рост 170 сантиметров, вес 62 килограмма ровно. Профессиональный рекорд 13 побед при 3 поражениях. Из Яндаре, Республика Ингушетия, Россия. Across the ring, in the red corner, Russian boxer weighing in 62 kilograms, standing 170 centimeters tall, age 27. He holds a professional record of 13 wins and 3 losses, straight out of Yantane, Republic of Ingushetia, Russia. They say he's dangerous one. His name is Chaniev!
Well, Chaniev was a good amateur. He actually boasts a win over Albert Selimov, who was an enormously decorated top international amateur, who was the only man, in fact, to beat Vasily Lomachenko in the amateur ranks. That was a defeat that Lomachenko avenged a couple of times, but Chaniev's got a win over Selimov, so that's something to say about his time in the unpaid ranks. We've gone through his resume really as a professional, and as stated, this is a fight that he absolutely must win and really look good doing it. Melnyk's background is in kickboxing and Muay Thai. He's competed professionally in both of those two, so he's an experienced athlete. So they're scheduled for 10. Chaniev in the black shorts with the green waistband and Melnyk in the silver.
It's important here for Melnyk not to be overawed by the guy with more experience and, you know, used to fighting at a bigger occasion. So he needs to stamp his authority if he can. Because, you know, Chaniev will be out, the one as you see here, going out there trying to put the foot in the centre of the ring and dictate the pace.
And that's exactly what he's looking to try and do. Went downstairs to the body, now trying to jab to the head. Melnyk hasn't been able to get too many shots off so far.
And that's important when you box in a level above what you're used to and you're stepping up in levels, to get some a little bit of success early, because otherwise your confidence, you start questioning yourself. Your confidence wanes, you start questioning yourself, and whilst you're doing that, the more experienced guy is going to work.
And Chaniev really is going to work here too. He launched a massive left hook, just leaping in with it a few seconds ago, missed with it, then aimed a big right hand and missed with that too, and he's swung that one over the head of Melnyk, who just dipped his knees nicely. He fancies this, Chaniev, but he's put a lot into this opening round, and again there he's looking for these big single shots.
Nice little right hand there from Melnyk. Not enough weight behind it, but it's a scoring shot. He just dipped his legs and threw the right hand over the top. So he's landed with a couple of shots as the round's gone on. It's still a good round so far here for Chaniev.
He likes to throw that left hand on the move, Chaniev. Right hand there, almost a right hand lead. Just threw it and then rolled away to his right. Into the final 30 seconds of this opening round. Good right hand there from Chaniev. Left to the body.
Yeah, lovely time right hand on there. Just a little half, a little lean back.
And the left to the body there too. And he caught Melnyk when Melnyk had just landed one himself. So good pace to the opening round. Pace set there by Chaniev, who, as we've been saying, is by far the more experienced of these two. And as you were saying, Barry, it's important when you're casting that role that you let that be known to your opponent, that you establish that kind of hierarchy in that opening round. And I think he did that, but Melnyk's got through it.
He did do that. He went, and from the offset, he put that foot in the centre of the ring, and he thought, I'm the boss. I'm going to dictate the pace from the centre of the ring. And you're going to try and figure me out, I think, and also showing you, back into the big leagues. I guess that's sort of the introduction to it. You put the guy under pressure, make him panic a little bit, because he's never been at this level before as a professional. But I think as the round got on, Melnyk tried to get a few shots into play, but yeah, he needs to show us a little bit more in this round now to stop the onslaught here. A little bit of a momentum that Chaniev sort of gained in our first round. If he can keep that going, it's going to be a hard night's work here for Melnyk.
Chaniev just boxing out of the southpaw stance at the start of the round. Melnyk looking to try and get his lead foot outside that southpaw front foot. That's the accepted way of doing it if you're an orthodox facing a southpaw. Not everybody buys into that. I've spoken to fighters who prefer to get on the other side, get on the inside with that lead foot. It makes it easier, they say, to land their own backhand, but puts them more in line with their opponents. That's the risk you take with it, really.
Well, you've got to turn your body more, and that means you square up. And also, with your foot on the inside, you've got to turn and square up, and you'll lose a little bit of balance in it. So if you get caught, it can have a greater impact, of course. But when you've got a guy like Chaniev who's constantly switching, it's hard to be thinking about where your foot placement should be.
crafty little left hand on the inside there from Melnyk. The referee gets in and tells him to break. I think he's maybe caught by a little bit of a forearm there, Chaniev. He looked slightly irritated there for a second.
Well, Melnyk's just dipping down every time that Chaniev goes to commit to an attack. He sort of dips to his right. You just see it there. Just stifles the attack a little bit on Chaniev. He hasn't been that effective so far in his second round. Oh, as I say, it's a lovely little right hand.
Just stoops, wades almost into that left hand to the body there, Chaniev. Short right hand on the inside. Melnyk's trying to stick out that jab if he can. He's giving away a bit in height to Chaniev, and just in size generally. Obviously they both had to make 135 pounds yesterday, but on the night I'd say there's a fair difference in weight between these two.
Yeah, so considering that Melnyk's 21 years of age, he's probably around his sort of naturalish weight, isn't he, where Chaniev 27's filled out a bit, so he'll probably pile on the pounds a little bit more, you would have thought. That's nice. Clever. He's losing the round here, man. He's lost the round for me, but again, not totally overawed, is he?
No, he's hanging in there. He's doing more than hanging in there. He's keeping his boxing together. He's not panicking. He's not looked distressed at any point. He's got a plan. He's trying to stick to it. He's not soaking up any kind of undue punishment. He'll just be hoping that there will come a point where he will have a spell. But at the moment, Chaniev's completely dictating the pace that the fight's being boxed at. And if you're the one doing that, then, well, almost without exception, you're the one winning.
What people don't realise, the important thing about dictating the pace is it doesn't matter how fast or slow the fight is. You can slow a fight right down and it kills the energy of your opponent. Even though you think he's fit, and if his fight's slower, then he should have loads of energy. But you fight, if a guy quickens the pace or slows it down, and it's not your pace that you're used to fighting at, it can really affect how your breathing is and how your energy levels conclude as the fight goes on. So, yeah, having a foothold of the fight, a grab of it early on, dictating the pace is what we all talk about, but that comes from experience, of course.
Melnyk just looking to try and pile in behind a right hand there. Couldn't quite manage it. Up close, Chaniev clubs away, then catches it with a left hand. Referee just having a quick word. I think he maybe felt that Chaniev was holding and hitting a touch there. Melnyk just looking to open up a bit more for the start of round 3. Maybe he feels that he's kind of worked his way into things in the opening couple of rounds, that he's feeling comfortable enough, and now he can be a bit more ambitious.
Well, you imagine the corner's probably told him, listen, you're letting this guy, lead off, you're letting him, force you back a little bit low, well low with that left hook. So maybe he thought, I need to take the initiative now and try and push him back. And to be fair to him, he hasn't really been clean shots landing. It's a little bit crude, but it's a commitment you can't fault. That's a nice short right hand there from Chaniev.
Good defensive work on the ropes there from Chaniev, just sinking into them slightly, moving that head well. And Melnyk saying this time that he caught one around the back of the head. Looking for that right hand, it just slides over the shoulder of Chaniev, just turns him neatly.
It's a great camera angle there, wasn't it? Well, just to see that little defence with the shoulder there from Chaniev, making him miss. From a different angle, that looks like Melnyk's having all sorts of success.
Well, there's a slip there in the corner. I'm not sure what caused that, but no matter. Good stiff southpaw jab there from Chaniev. Melnyk's looking to get on the front foot and try and walk Chaniev down to an extent.
Just got to be careful there, Chaniev. Sometimes he comes forward, he switches his stance as he's moving forward. And again, we talked about earlier, if you get caught when you're square, you have no balance, and if it's a heavy shot, you're in trouble. And sometimes if it's not a heavy shot, you still, with lack of balance, end up on your backside. So I think the switching is working for him. It's quite effective, but he needs to do it from a safe distance for me.
And just as he threw the right hand there, Melnyk, he got stung with a quick little 1-2, and that's the problem he's having really, is that when he opens up himself, it's not that he's not getting through, but he's not getting away, and everything he's doing is being answered.
He's been committed in this round, but again, I'm not sure if the quality of work has been quite there. He's a little bit too close to the target sometimes, but he's letting those long hands go, and he's a little half a step out.
Если вы чувствуете острое противоборство в ринге, нажмите 1. Если вам нравится уровень боксеров, нажмите 2. Если вы рады вечеру бокса, дайте аплодисментов здесь. Это KOld Wars by Siesta.
Well, the referee had a little word about that, but he wasn't holding Melnyk. Melnyk had trapped his glove with his forearm on the blind side of the referee, so was holding himself in a way, if that makes sense. But the referee couldn't see that because he wasn't in the right place, and Chaniev had a little bit of a telling off. But that's that neat defensive work you were talking about.
Seconds out. Четвертый раунд. Round 4.
Melnyk just tried to usher Chaniev in here. I don't think he's going to fall for this. He's too experienced a campaigner to fall in with Melnyk's wishes. Just up close here, it's Chaniev who's able to find that little bit of room. Landed a couple into the body.
But Melnyk's game, isn't he? For a young man, you know, he's willing to have a pop if he can. He's trying to let his hands go. He's not having much success with it. He's being picked off against a guy who looks physically stronger and looks like he hits harder and certainly has better timing. Yeah, a lovely left hook there from Chaniev. But Melnyk's willing to gamble at times.
Jabs the body there from Chaniev.
For me, what Melnyk needs is that double jab, because he's got nice long arms and he's getting counter sometimes with, or if he throws a single shot, Chaniev's looking to fire back. So you step with that. Even if you just step to the left a little bit when you throw the jab, so you're moving around the target, or we'll step hard on the front foot, so you're pushing back with a bit of weight, but double it up, make it hard, make it fast, and it might just give you a little bit of room to throw that long right hand then. But you don't throw single shots against a good counter puncher. That's a guaranteed no-no.
Good combination there from Chaniev. Melnyk just bounced back onto the heels. Threw a good right hand there, though, and that's just exactly what you were talking about, really, because the overhand right there from Melnyk was a decent shot, but then he held his feet, didn't exit, and he was stung immediately.
Again, though, he's been sometimes when you think he's starting to get picked off too comfortable or getting a little bit overawed at times, he's willing to fire back, and you say his courage, his heart is there to see.
Oh, he's got that, absolutely, and I think that was one of the main reasons why he would have got the call for this fight. He gives Chaniev a stare as he marches back to his corner there with real purpose, Melnyk, because with 4 rounds in here, we've got 6 to go. He will probably know that he's that he's down, but he's put more into that third and fourth round, and he will hang in there and provide a threat all the way through. Chaniev hasn't made any kind of dent in him either. Let's be real about that. He has landed some decent shots, but at no point has Melnyk looked in any kind of trouble.
But you do just worry about, you know, when, like I said earlier, when Melnyk's coming forward and doing the things that should get him success, but then he doesn't get anything from it. How demoralising that is. And when you are feeling sorry for yourself, you do tend to get, I don't know why, you tend to get tired quicker. And once that mental edge goes, then that's when you start getting potentially hurt, of course. So he hasn't shown any signs of that yet, but it's always a worry that could happen. Because you can keep coming forward and not worry about it for then 6-7 rounds, and you think, I'm just not getting no success, and then you start to just, you know, your shoulders drop a little bit, and he's not showing no signs of that, though, is he? Look at him, he's still as game as he was in the first.
Absolutely, he's still full of optimism here. Nice quick start to the round, was popping out that jab, and again here just spreads those hands wide and just stepped away to his right and landed a decent looking left hand. It was half taken on the glove there by Chaniev, but he's tried to set a quick tempo at the beginning of the round here, Melnyk.
Look at the response here from Chaniev there. Just little spurts of combinations. He actually threw the combination that Melnyk should be throwing, the double jab right hand.
Winding up for a left hand to the body there, Melnyk. Didn't manage to land it. He's looking to jab more in this round, the Ukrainian.
He's just a little bit route one, isn't he? That's the worry.
Good straight right hand there, though, from Melnyk. Chaniev fires back there and then just moves away to his right. Good jab again there from Melnyk, and he's just outworking Chaniev in this round, and with a minute to go in the fifth, he could maybe win this one. Goes for the walk. But the greater weight of shot there comes in from Chaniev. Just dug his toes in there and looked for the right hand up the middle.
Well, I think Melnyk's doing the right thing, trying to push Chaniev back, but I think he's just getting too close. So you want to put him under pressure, but he got long levers, and he's taking away that advantage by getting too close and allowing Chaniev to counter it without really having to overreach. If he swivels from the waist, if he turns from the core, and makes those shots nice and long, then makes Chaniev got to take that step forward or leap into the attacks, which obviously slows it down a little bit, gives Melnyk a bit more of an opportunity. Or just do that, of course, pick him up and throw him on the floor. Good jab there from Melnyk.
Chaniev finally just short with his.
Good shot again there from Melnyk.
Right on the bell. Did he do enough to win that round for you? Definitely the closest to the fight so far.
Yeah, he probably did. It was tight, I thought, as well, because I think, you know, those little bursts of attack from Chaniev there, with the quality was a lot better. But I think you're right with Melnyk. He was bell to bell there, wasn't he, with the work, and landed with some good shots. And that last shot to finish the round is what you remember. And I would probably give him the edge there in that last round. But again, if he just doesn't get too close, you mentioned a couple of times, nice long right hand, and that's what it needs to be, a long right hand, not a short right hand, and not allow Chaniev a chance to counter, make him overreach, make him look for you. That's what he hadn't had to do. You make him look, you make him stretch, and then you pick him up and throw him on the floor.
It's such an interesting division, this, isn't it? Because we talked about Commey winning the IBF title, and I was glad to see him do it because he'd worked hard. He'd had a rough decision against Shafikov, I thought, definitely, and the one against Siesta certainly could have gone the other way, but he then got dismantled really by Teofimo Lopez, and that was impressive because I wasn't sure that Lopez would be able to do that to somebody like Commey, and now we're waiting for Lopez against Lomachenko, of course, and below them we've got Campbell against Garcia, hopefully, and there's Devin Haney. Then you look at Javier Fortuna, Jorge Linares is still around, Lee Selby too. It's stocked, isn't it? And it has been for a while, but it's not really showing any signs of dissipating.
And that's the important part. You know, divisions usually have their troughs and peaks, don't they? And they go pretty quickly. But the lightweights have been a quality division for a long time now, and you can see it still because some of these champions or leading contenders are very, very young men. So yeah, it's a horrible division to be in if you're like number 5, number 6 in the world, isn't it? Because there's no easy championship.
No, well, Luke Campbell has found that. His 2 world title shots were away in America against Jorge Linares. He was very, very close that night, and then, of course, against Vasily Lomachenko, and he performed admirably in that fight, but just didn't do enough to win. Brutally put, anything like enough rounds to win the fight. So he's still hanging around, waiting for another opportunity.
He's just unsettled Chaniev here, Melnyk, a little bit. Maybe I think Chaniev has found Melnyk so easy to hit that he's maybe surprised that Melnyk's still full of vigor. Maybe he thought he would have, not maybe even if he not thought he would have stopped him, but maybe mentally broke him a little bit, made him a little bit sorry for himself. But it's anything but.
No, absolutely, and that's what's key in boxing sometimes is that body language. Chaniev is winning the fight, and he'll be aware that he's winning the fight, but I think you're right. I think he's surprised at how cocky at times Melnyk still is.
Melnyk's one of those fighters who looks like he could be better, but he will never be better. He looks like he got some attributes to be technically better, but I don't think he will work on that because he'll know he's awkward and tough, and he'll win fights that way. But he'll also become a fighter, I think, down the line where people will think this is a nice little tune-up here for us, and I think he'll cause some upsets at a decent level, not a highest level, but at a decent level. Especially when he gets his man strength, in maybe 3-4 years' time.
Yeah, at 21 years old, that's definitely yet to happen, isn't it? Because, as we were saying earlier on, Chaniev has put some on overnight. He looks solid, big at the weight, whereas Melnyk doesn't. You'd imagine that he's not that much over 135 pounds today, whereas Chaniev, I don't know, I'm guessing that he might be more like about 150 tonight.
Yeah, probably. Look at that there from Melnyk. We've seen the 2 little occasions there where he threw the right hand and he span off to the left, and that time there when he throws a shot, make sure that right hand's up to catch anything coming back. And criticise him for lack of technical ability, but he's just showing there that he does have a little bit of intelligence and thought about his work. Just maybe he looks a little bit crude at times, but I thought in the last cut around he's been quite effective.
So it's around 7-4 to go here. Isa Chaniev, the former world title challenger, he's in the black. And Vladyslav Melnyk, 21 years old, just the one defeat on his record so far in the silver. Neat little bit of footwork there as he just slinks around the back of Chaniev.
I wonder where he learned that from, that little step to the side and take your front foot on the outside and pivot. I can't think of any other Ukrainian boxer that does that. At the same weight.
It's a dangerous game borrowing things from him, though, isn't it? I always think this sometimes. That's a lovely uppercut there from Chaniev, because you look at someone like him and he's so good that, of course, you would want to try and copy him. But the problem with copying him is that he's so good.
Yes. I remember when Floyd Mayweather was at his height, and I just thought there's going to be a whole generation of fighters getting knocked out with that shoulder roll, because it's a great move, But unless you have that vision and that great timing, you just fight with your hands by your waist. That's you need to have all those some of those attributes certainly to be able to pull it off. But when you can, it's a fantastic move. But for most of us, we can't do it, so we're just going to get hurt. So I thought it didn't happen. Luckily, again, there good footwork there from Melnyk.
Neat little combination there, taken on the gloves from Chaniev, but finished on the left hand. Chaniev leading off with a left. He's being out-hustled here by Melnyk at the moment, and he's dropped around in the fifth, we reckon. The sixth wasn't too much in that one either, and Chaniev, I think, just needs to be a little bit busier here, punching combinations a bit more rather than just look for that single shot, because although he's not in any trouble, you could lose rounds doing this if you're not careful.
Not far off that left-hander there, Chaniev. Yeah, well, and also momentum's a great thing, isn't it? To have and not to have, and to volunteer it away is a dangerous game. The last thing you want to give this kid is more confidence to put pressure on you. That's better there from Chaniev. Some good body work.
Melnyk just beat him to the punch there. Left hand Melnyk felt was a little bit low. I think he may be right, but he needs to stop complaining about that and get on with things. Chaniev just trying to muscle him a bit in the final stages of round 7.
He is, but Melnyk's doing what he was doing in early rounds. He's dipping to the right again, just making it hard for Chaniev to hit him as clean as he'd like. I think for that, Chaniev needs to go southpaw.
That was a decent little two-punch combination there that Melnyk finished the round with. One just stuck up through the forearms, and he has grown into this fight. One of the things that's allowed him to do that is, as you noted, is his attitude, really. He's never lost any kind of belief in himself here. And if anything, it's getting stronger as the rounds progress. And as I said, Chaniev, he does need to be a little bit careful, because he definitely took those first 4 rounds. But you could make a case for Melnyk certainly in round 5. You could make a case for him again in 6 and 7. I'm not saying he's won all 3 of them, but you could make an argument.
You could. I was just thinking the same thing. You could have easily won the last 3. I haven't given him the last 3, but I gave him 2 out of the 3 for sure. So yeah, he's all of a sudden he's gone from a one-sided, not drumming, but a one-sided, relatively easy fight here. But Chaniev to closing the gap here for the young Melnyk.
And it looks like either he's realised that himself or he's been told it, because he's come out at the start of this round strong here, Chaniev. He was just dipping and rolling, looking to try and shovel those gloves up into the rib cage. And he's trying to get after him a little bit here. And I think it's probably a wise thing to do. Just try and see if he can, I was going to say put him back in his place, but he's not accepted his place at any point in this fight, Melnyk, and that's what's been good about him.
Even though he fights well off the ropes, I think in where we're at the minute in the fight, he just needs to be on the front foot again. He needs to be in the centre of the ring. He needs to be pushing Melnyk back, as he was in the first few rounds. It just gives the overall impression there that he is back in charge, that he's the boss again. That's a good shot.
Just allowed himself to back up to the ropes there, and then came springing off them southpaw. Now leading off with that southpaw right hand, looking for the backhand, didn't quite get there. That one did.
It's just too many single shots, isn't it? He's having the better of the rounds here for me, Chaniev, but pot shotting a little bit.
And that's what he's been doing from the beginning, really. the flurries have generally come at the start of rounds when he's looked to start quick, and then he's gone back into the same kind of pattern. Just a little left hand there caught him as he was moving away to his right hand side, and again it didn't hurt him, but it landed. It's a scoring shot. The referee can see it. But he's done enough in the opening 2 minutes and 20 seconds of this round so far, Chaniev, to be winning the round.
Again, Melnyk just looking to get a little bit too close, I think. He's edging forward, he's not letting his hands go, because he wants that clear shot. So I think you got to throw from a little bit further out. Sort of make the gaps himself rather than look for the gaps. He does that quite well, doesn't he, Chaniev? That little change in direction and slipping a little straight shot through.
So there goes the bell. 2 rounds to go at the Diamond in Minsk, in Belarus. This is the first night of KOld Wars. We've got 3 more coming for you after this. Next week on the 30th of July, then on the 3rd of August and the 4th of August. And I keep saying it, but it's true. There are some really attractive matchups that have been made by Siesta, and he's continuing to work on a few more. And some ones which I think you'll find really interesting. What he's working on, which is what all promoters are working on, are good competitive matches, good competitive fights. And this has been a good fight. There was a clear favourite and clear underdog going into this, and we've got Chaniev in front, but Melnyk, when I looked at him over the last week or so, the one thing you did expect from him was that he would retain his discipline, he would keep his boxing together, and that he wouldn't be overly phased by the occasion. He just kind of struck you as that sort of person when you saw the way that he went about his work, and that's proved to be the case. And if he does go on to lose this fight, Melnyk, it's just a classic example of taking an opportunity, performing well, and even if you lose, your stock will rise.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, in many ways he had nothing to lose except for that, you know, he's already lost one, so he's not protecting an undefeated record. So I think it's, you know, for a young man, he's got, as long as he doesn't take an absolute hammering, which he hasn't, then he has plenty of time on his side. I thought he's done better than what I thought he'd do. I got to be honest, he's performed better. He's shown more ability than I thought he had. I thought he was okay, but a little bit slow with the shots, and a little bit route one. And he's done that at times, but then as the fight's gone on, he's started to just produce a little more imagination in his work. And I've been, you know, I got him losing, going quite widely so far, but he's surprised me actually.
I think there may well have been a bit of apprehension in those opening 2-3 rounds. He did a good job of not really showing it, but the reality is that he's stepping up to a level of opponent here before that he's previously not been anywhere near, and he would have wanted to have got through those first 2 or 3 without taking too many chances, just so he could get it right in his head that the power wasn't going to be too much, that Chaniev in every way wasn't going to be too much. So if you come out all guns blazing, and Chaniev did that against Richard Comey, it doesn't always work.
No, and also when it fails dramatically, as Chaniev has been the victim of. It's good here from Chaniev, though he's sort of bossing a little bit here in this round. Putting Melnyk under a bit of pressure here, making him miss, making him pay with every shot.
That was a good right hand there a few seconds ago from Chaniev. Left hand gets through as well. He's nice and accurate and sharp in this round, and he's putting together more 2-3 punch combinations, which is something you were asking for a couple of rounds ago. Now just backs off, maybe taking a little bit of a breather, but uses those ropes well.
Well, he fights well off the ropes, I think, and that's obviously a habit that he has. But I think in some cases, in some scenarios, and I think this is one of them, you don't want to give this young kid confidence. I think you keep piling the pressure on him. I think, and that puts him in his place a bit. Even if you're not hurting him, you're not allowing him to get any sort of momentum, and then confidence, and then energy to have a little bit of an onslaught and maybe nick a round off you, which has happened.
just waving that lead glove, trying to distract him, and looks for that long left to the body. He's gone for that a couple of times, and he just comes off it slightly, just pulls it. Bell goes at the end of the round, so just one more to go here. That's Chaniev, who previously has challenged for a vacant IBF lightweight title, a title that was vacated by Mikey Garcia, who's now very much up at welterweight, and Melnyk, Vladyslav Melnyk, who before tonight had not boxed an opponent of anything like this level, and for that reason he's given a good account of himself. But Chaniev, just when he needed to just give us a bit, really, after 2 or 3 quite lacklustre rounds where maybe he just lost his concentration a bit, he's done that. He's put his foot down as much as he's been required to, and re-established himself.
Yeah, he has. I think that the last couple of rounds he's put himself back in pole position, and yeah, all he has to do now is stay safe. But it hasn't been a bad fight. It's been quite an entertaining and intriguing fight, hasn't it? You're a young kid here who's you're going to praise the guy who's lost more than the guy who's won, which is a strange scenario to be in. But you have a guy who stepped up a level, and okay, he's come second best, but he's sort of, his stock has risen, but in defeat.
Good left hand there from Melnyk. And for Chaniev, really, he'll be back to winning ways as long as he gets through this final round, and then they'll be looking to try and get him back towards world level, because having been there once, that's where you want to get back to. But as outlined a couple of rounds ago, with the top 10 fighters in that lightweight division, that is a difficult thing to do. It really is. You've got Rantis Barthélemy in there as well. There's all sorts of really just high quality boxers. We do expect Lomachenko and Lopez to fight for the undisputed title at some point. Top Rank have been pumping out the shows, of course. They're both top ranked fighters, so that shouldn't prove to be a problem, but you don't want to do that behind closed doors. That's a huge fight. You're going to want to wait until you can fill out, you know, a good sized arena for that one, because I'm sure it would.
That's a great fight, isn't it? You know, is Lomachenko slow in? You can't be great forever, can you? That's to come a time where, you know, and also Lomachenko, as good as he is, and he's absolutely brilliant, is a featherweight boxing at the lightweight division, and that's just the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's talked about that, hasn't he? About how he could still make super feather, he could still make featherweight, and that's why there was no possible way he was ever going to go higher than lightweight, and you would never want to see him do it, because when you see a fighter get beaten just because they've gone up a weight where everybody's too big for them, it just doesn't mean anything. You know, as people always say, weight divisions exist for a reason, but personally I do think that he will get beaten again, Lomachenko, because I don't think he wants to stay pro for that much longer, from some of the things that I've heard him say. And he's been boxing at the top level for a really long time, nearly 400 amateur fights and very tough training. It's going to take its toll. I don't know who the person is going to be who might take him down, but I think somebody will do it.
It's a great finish here from Melnyk, and he might not have done enough to win the round. Possibly he has, but just the fact that, you know, for a young kid here, he must know that he's losing, but his commitment to his game plan, if he had, was just a commitment to try and win. The toughness he's shown, and not once feeling sorry for himself, especially in those early rounds when he was getting quite easily outboxed. It's been quite commendable.
It has, and it was an enjoyable watch, that. And Chaniev has come out on the correct side of it for him. He was expected to win this fight, and he has won that fight, but as we were saying, Melnyk's taken an opportunity here. He stepped up a number of levels, quite honestly, from where he'd been boxing previously, and he's still a winner. His stock has still risen. For him, his hasn't dipped. He's got a win that he needed after a couple of defeats, and they'll just have to see what's out there for him now.
But every time he got caught with a good shot, he's always willing to fire back, you know. And after those early rounds when he was getting outboxed and he was quite won, which is what I thought when I'd seen some clips of him in the past. He started to show some little bit of imagination as well, a little bit of variety, the footwork. He was trying to move on the target, and maybe he sort of seen that from Chaniev and thought, I'll have a go at what he's doing. But it just made Chaniev have to think about himself for a couple of rounds, and he had to up his game a little bit just to close the show. But again, yeah, it's one of those fights where Chaniev's won, and like we expected, but you tend to want to praise the loser, the young man, for stepping up and having a really good go, but just falling a little bit short.
Long wait for the cards here. Here comes the MC.
Ladies and gentlemen, judges' decision. 98-94, 98-94, 99-92, 99-92, 98-93, 98-93. И в этом красивом и задорном поединке, которому звучат уже аплодисменты, победу одержал боксер красного угла, единогласно,
So Chaniev gets a decision, but on the cards there, he's been done some credit. Melnyk, he's won a couple of rounds outright on all three of them, actually, and quite a lot of drawn rounds in there from the judges too. So Chaniev has taken care of business as he was expected to, and we'll just have to wait and see what's next for him. But as myself and Barry have been saying, Melnyk there has increased his stock despite the defeat, and that brings our three-fight card to a close, and it's been an enjoyable night. Isa Chaniev will take his turn to address the crowd, and I can't pretend to be able to translate this for you, so I'm not going to attempt to. Is it possible, Barry, do you think that people watching this fight, watching someone like Chaniev, might fancy him possibly as a future opponent? I'm thinking about someone like Lee Selby. They've got to be thinking about what will be the next step on the road for him. Good win against Ricky Burns, and of course he wants to move towards a world title, but I mean, those fights are tied up for the foreseeable.
I think Selby will want to go down a level. He's going to box that Camposo for the eliminator for the world title. Whether that happens, who knows? But I don't think he's going to want to step below. I think some of the other guys, I think Chaniev will be a good scalp on their records, and maybe bump them up a rating, like a number 10 to a number 4 or 6 or something like that. But yeah, he's a guy who's beatable, but you've got to be careful because he has enough skill to give you a hard night's work, Chaniev, still. But you still tend to think the top sort of 4 or 5 in the world in any of those organisations would probably still have the better of him.
Yes, agreed. But as we were saying, it's just such an interesting division, 135 pounds. It's so stacked full of good fighters, and we'll just have to wait and see what does actually happen, because Luke Campbell against Garcia, that's a fight we think is going to happen. But just before that, we thought it was going to be Luke Campbell against Javier Fortuna. Now maybe it's going to be Jorge Linares against Javier Fortuna. So there's just so much at the minute which is yet to be decided, and then fights that had already been made before the COVID outbreak and before lockdown. You just wonder how many of them will now happen, or if they do happen, whether they'll happen straight away. Dubois Joyce is a really good example. We were looking at that for April, and now we're looking at that for October. But in the meantime, the teams and the promoters have decided that it's best to go into a couple of tune-ups, one for each fighter. So as I've been saying as well during the course of the night, this is night 1 of Cold Wars. We've got 3 more of these for you. The second coming on the 30th of July, that's next Thursday. They're all from the same venue, all from the diamond in Minsk in Belarus, and they'll all be around the same start times. And then on Monday, August the 3rd, we go again, and then on Tuesday, August the 4th. So keep your eyes out for announcements on social media, from Fight TV, from Siesta Boxing, from myself and Barry for the matchups, because, as I said, I promise you, there are some good ones in there. There are some interesting ones in there. Just as our MC is, we will bid you good night, and we'll catch you again next time.